And we are up and running. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Good Friday, April 18th. And today, I'm going to be hanging out here and answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition. So if there's anything in particular that you would like to discuss regarding your workouts, regarding building muscle, regarding losing fat, nutrition, supplementation, anything along those lines, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window today, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. And this is something that I do pretty much every Friday. We go live at 5 with a Q&A, and something I've been doing for quite a while now. So as you're popping onto the live stream, please let me know. And first off, let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. If you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Right. And I just want to make sure, I'm assuming now, another thing I should mention too, like today is a holiday for a lot of people, right? Good Friday. So if it is, because of that, I'm assuming that we're probably going to have a smaller than normal turnout today. And that's totally fine, because then that gives us more of a, a smaller group conversation and more attention to those of you who do join in for our video chat today. So if that's a smaller group, I have no problem with that whatsoever, because it gives you more time to ask your questions and make sure that we do get them answered over the course of our video chat here today. So let us see who we have joining in. We've got Lee Dunnigan joining in. Appreciate the support. Thank you so much for letting us know we are coming through loud and clear. And Lee is a regular to these video chats. I think there's not many lives that I do on a Friday where Lee doesn't join in. So again, appreciate it, man. I respect that for the consistency. He's certainly got the consistency down pat. We got Robert joining. Robert's another one who's super consistent, joined into our video chats. Thank you, Robert. Glad it is coming through loud and clear on your end. Who else do we have? We've got Emma joining in. Good to see you. I haven't been able to watch one of your lives in about 6 months. Well, you're here today, right? We can always start again. Glad to have you joining in, Emma. Who else we have joining in? We've got John joining in. Mr. Eagle Eye John. Not just any old John. He's an Eagle Eye John joining in. Saying my lower left hernia operation went well. Hoping to train again soon. Well, congratulations on that. Glad that you got that taken care of. And I actually wrote a blog post about hernias a while back. That was a very popular blog post. In fact, if you do a search on Google for Lee Hayward hernia, it'll pop up. Because that is a blog post over on leehayward.com. And when it comes to hernias, surprisingly, they are quite common in bodybuilding, fitness, and athletics. I guess when people are exerting themselves and straining, there is that risk of getting a hernia. And the problem with hernias is if you get one, it ain't going to fix itself, right? That's the thing. It's not something that, I'll just let it rest up and it'll heal, and it'll heal up on its own. No, once you get a hernia, you have a hernia. The only way to get them fixed, or to let it heal, if you will, is to get it surgically repaired, where they literally put a mesh in there to kind of patch the hole, for lack of a better word. I mean, that's what they literally do. So again, kudos to you for getting that done, and hopefully now you'll be back to training, and that area should actually be probably even stronger than it was before once the operation is healed up. All right. I'm glad to hear that went well for you. Let's see what else we got there. There was a couple questions came through. One that I wanted to address. It came through earlier today. I'm going to just address this. Actually, it was a comment to another video that I made, and I'm going to address that here. But while I'm addressing that, just want to let everybody who's tuning in now know, because I know people jumping onto the live stream here, if you have any questions, topics of discussion, or anything that you would like to discuss today related to fitness and nutrition, post it into our chat window there, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. But I had a comment came through, and it was a question about fasted training, and it was in response to a workout video that I had posted a while back, and someone was saying that they're struggling to get through their workouts, and they're doing them in a fasted state in effort to try and burn more body fat. And I can relate to that because I used to do that myself. And like it's I'm not saying it's right, wrong, good or bad, but there's definitely pros and cons to fasted training as well as fed training. And these days I do zero fasted training. It's something I just do not do anymore. And I find that I have better exercise performance and feel so much better when I don't work out on an empty stomach. Like I always want to have some fuel in the system, some fuel in the tank, if you will, versus trying to do a training session fasted. And that applies for both cardio and weight training. Right? In the past, I used to do a lot of fasted cardio, especially when I was competing in bodybuilding. And when done in moderation and at low intensity, it can be an effective fat burning tool. But from an exercise performance point of view, it's terrible. It really is, because when you are training in a depleted state, you don't have the energy to run on. Like your glycogen levels are low, your energy levels are low. And glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates in the cells, that is your high octane fuel source. So if you want to get through a high intensity workout, especially strength training or athletics or anything where you have to put out a lot of effort, you need to have some glycogen in your system. You need to be energized and have the fuel to run on versus trying to do it in a fasted state. Now, sure, when you're fasted and blood sugar is low and everything else, you will tap into burning a bit more body fat. But the problem with that is the intensity is lower. So you're not able to generate as much energy production through the workout itself, not able to stimulate muscle growth the same, or not able to stimulate your endurance in your cardiovascular system the same. So it's really not an ideal scenario. And from a practical point of view, I recommend everybody to train with some food in the system. So it doesn't mean like you have to eat right before you go to the gym, but maybe an hour or so before you work out, you should have a good solid meal so that you have some energy in the system. And depending on the type of training you're doing, you may even need to have intra workout nutrition. And this is something that I do, especially when I'm doing long duration endurance training. So for like in my case, I do a lot of long distance cycling. And in fact, this morning I did a 100-kilometer bike ride. And during those rides, I fuel up beforehand, make sure that I have a good breakfast beforehand. And then while I'm riding, I'm consuming food and carbohydrates and that throughout the ride. So I'll literally, like in my water bottles that I take with me on my ride, I'll mix up amino acids and carbohydrate powder and electrolytes in my water bottles and sip that. I also have like energy bars, like Cliff bars, while I'm riding. I usually have at least one energy bar per hour. And today we're on a group ride and we stopped into a coffee shop, and I had a coffee and a pastry on our coffee ride stop. And I use that. I mean, obviously it's a treat and stuff, and you can make an argument. Well, the pastry isn't the ideal fuel source, but it still helped to provide extra carbohydrates and energy, because during that ride today, I mean, that was a 100-kilometer ride over 4 hours of moving time. I burned over 3,000 calories. So, you can justify having some not so good food in there when you're burning that level of calories. So I do that, energy bars, carb powder, and sometimes even a sweet treat to just keep those glycogen levels topped up and help sustain the energy for those long rides. And if you try to do long rides like that, or long activities, sporting events or whatever, if you try to do it in a fasted state, it ain't going to happen. You're going to go through what's known as bonking, where you literally run out of energy, you run out of glycogen. And it's literally like you feel good, and then it's just nothing. And the analogy I like to use is like, imagine driving your car and it runs out of gas. Like, even if it's on low on gas and the gas light comes on, you say, hey, the car is still running fine. The gas light's on, no big deal. I can still go. Car's running. But as soon as it physically runs out of gas, it's just like running, and then put, nothing. That's the way your energy level feels when you run out of glycogen. Like, you could be going good, going strong. Maybe you're going for an hour or two. Hey, this is great. I can keep going in a fasted state. But once you deplete your glycogen and you deplete your liver glycogen, it's just like your car running out of gas. It's just like whoop, and your energy just drops off a cliff, and you can't sustain high power output. I mean, if you pace yourself, you could probably keep going. But now what's happening is your body is literally breaking down lean muscle tissue as well as fat tissue to try and catabolize its own body tissues to fuel and nourish the workout. I mean, it can it can keep you going, but at a much lower intensity. Like you're not going to have any strength or power output once you run out of glycogen. So again, that's your high octane fuel source. So for all of you, I mean, who are focusing on athletic performance and strength, especially from a bodybuilding and a performance point of view, do not do fasted workouts. I would not recommend it. Make sure that you got some fuel in the tank so that you're nourishing the body and getting the most efficiency and the most effort from your workouts. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Got some questions coming through. A lot of them come through there now. Okay. This is an interesting one. Emma's saying, as you get older, do you notice much muscle loss considering you used to be so jacked? I have lost some muscle, or I'm less muscly, I guess, whatever you want to say, than I used to be. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Well, obviously, age, I'm sure, plays a role with it, because generally speaking, as people get older, you do tend to lose some muscle, especially like in my situation. Like I started training when I was 12, competed in bodybuilding for the first time at 17. Throughout my teens, 20s, and early 30s was competing in bodybuilding. And that was when I was at my peak. In fact, as far as my true peak in terms of size, probably in the late 2000s. You know, I can kind of argue somewhere around 2007 to 2010, that era right there. That's probably when I was at my biggest, strongest. You know, that's when I had the most muscle on my frame, if you will, back in that time. And I was training for it. So I mean, like my training was geared towards bodybuilding, right? You know, off-season bulking, pre-contest cutting. And my whole focus was just on trying to build as much muscle as possible. So yeah, I mean, you maximize it. And I was in the prime in terms of my age bracket for building muscle. Now I'm switched gears. Like I no longer compete in bodybuilding anymore, and I've switched to cycling. And cycling is not a muscular a muscular sport, if you will. Cycling is an endurance sport. So because of that, I have lost some size due to that. But it's not like I'm scrawny or underweight. I mean, based on the height weight chart, I'm still categorized as obese based on height weight on the height weight chart category. So I know a lot of people look at me and say, "Oh, you're all skinny and scrawny and you lost weight." Well, you know, yes, I'm not as big as I used to be, but it's still, I wouldn't consider myself underweight, especially when you go by the height weight chart. Like I'm right now, the last time I weighed myself, I'm 197, and at 5'6", 197, that puts me in the obese category on the height weight chart. So I still wouldn't consider that scrawny, but I have lost size for sure. And some of it is intentional, is what I'm getting at. Like training has changed, priorities have changed. I'm not trying to be big and muscular anymore. I'm trying to be lean and healthy and focusing on more cardiovascular endurance and VO2 max and other aspects of health and fitness versus just big and strong. So that has been a big reason, but I would certainly say age has had a factor in there as well. Now, it's interesting to note this, because if people haven't had any previous training experience and they start training in their 40s and 50s and, you know, even in their 60s, I've seen it happen with some of my coaching students. You can still build muscle like in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. But the degree of muscle that you build, it's not going to be to the same as if someone started in their teens or in their 20s and really capitalize on that, you know, when the body is in its prime for growth. Like, especially for me, like when I started training at 12 and I went through my entire teenage years bodybuilding, I mean, I made crazy gains. Like I remember when I first started working out, I was probably about 130 pounds. Oh, throughout my teenage years, I got up to 200 pounds. So I put on like literally 70 pounds of mass on my frame. And that's all natural. I mean, that was just, you know, living at home, eating as much as I could and just training as hard as I could. And I put on about 70 pounds through my teenage years. So I went from 130 to 200. And the biggest that I got was up to 240. That was the heaviest that I ever peaked out at. And when I was at my peak in bodybuilding, I would compete right around the 200 mark. Like I'd get down under 200 to make the light heavyweight class, which was 198 was the cutoff. And that's where I was most of my competitions when I was at my best was in the light heavyweight category at just making the cutoff at 198. Whereas now that's kind of like the weight that I'm at now, but I'm not in contest shape, right? So yeah, I've certainly lost mass, and there's a combination of factors for sure. But the big one, I think it's just that I'm not trying to be big anymore, and I'm not doing what it takes to be as big as possible anymore. But anyway, good question for sure. Who else we got joining in? Let's see. Brian saying, am I overtraining to build muscle when lifting heavy for over an hour? That depends, and it depends on numerous factors. Like, you can't just say an hour in the gym is overtraining, or like you can't just put these blanket numbers out there, because it depends on your fitness level. It depends on your nutrition, your rest, your recovery, your work capacity. Like someone who is deconditioned and out of shape, like an hour workout would probably destroy them, and like massive overtraining. Someone who's in really good shape, an hour workout might be easy, relatively speaking. Now, of course, it also depends on what you're doing in that hour as well. But you just can't put the blanket statements of saying, are you overtraining? The key that you want to look at to determine if you're overtraining or not, or if your training is productive, are you making gains? Like, are you getting stronger? Are you getting fitter? Are you seeing physical changes in your body in terms of, like, especially if you're training to get stronger? Are you getting stronger? If you're training to get bigger, are you getting bigger? Or if you're training for definition, are you getting more defined? Like, whatever it is that you're training, are you seeing progress in the areas that you want to see progress in? If you are, then what you're doing is working, right? And don't just go following these blanket statements of people saying, oh, that's overtraining, or that's too much, or whatever. It depends. It depends on the individual. Like, and one thing that like irks me is a lot of these the people who emphasize the high intensity training and say, like, everybody's overtraining, everybody's got to do, low volume, high intensity workouts. And the one person who really popularized this and kind of blew it out of proportion was Mike Mentzer. Now, I mean, I got a lot of respect for Mike Mentzer, and what he achieved and stuff. And I could understand a lot of the philosophies, but he really took it to the extremes. And sometimes when people take things to the extremes, it's, you gotta find the balance. And that's why I like to look at different aspects. Like, you see people who do volume training, you see people who do high intensity training, you see people who do strength training and athletic training, and kind of like look at all these different modalities and say, like, what are the best of all these, and kind of, take what's useful and discard what's useless, and then of course apply what's uniquely yours. And any of you who know where that quote came from, that was from Bruce Lee. And that's how he basically, took martial arts to the next level, is instead of being dogmatic and stuck in his little, like, oh, kung fu is the best, or karate is the best, or boxing is the best, or, Wing Chun is the best, or whatever, all these different martial arts forms. He studied them all, and he took the best of all of them and kind of combined it into his own. Like, he was like the first MMA mixed martial arts, if you will. And he kind of combined it. And like, I love that approach, when you kind of, like, instead of just taking these one-sided points of view, like, take different points of view and kind of combine it together and come up with something that works uniquely for you. So again, are you overtraining? I can't answer that. But what I can ask you is, are you making progress? If you're making progress, then you're not overtraining. Your workouts are productive. Now, if you're stuck in a plateau and it's like you're beating your head against the wall and it's like, man, I'm not making any progress, or worse, you're actually losing progress, meaning like you're losing strength, or you're feeling weaker and you're feeling burnt out, then yeah, those are obvious symptoms of overtraining. Like, if you're getting weaker and you're struggling to get through that hour in the gym, or you're losing weight when you're not trying to lose weight, and like all these kinds of things, that's a sure sign that, something needs to change. Either training, nutrition, rest, recovery, something needs to change. But if you're moving in the right direction, even if it's slow progress, but if you're making progress, then what you're doing is working, and you can keep going. All right, who else we got joining in? We have the Buff Canuck. Welcome, regular to our video chat. Glad to have you joining in. We have Curtains Kurt Tones. What's up? What's up to you? Who else? Emma says, I don't believe people say you're scrawny now. It's amazing the type of comments and feedback you get. Like, I actually had somebody comment on it was one of my posts that I made. It was actually, I believe, for last week's video chat. I posted up a picture and someone commented saying how horrendous my fat rolls were. And I just like, yeah, sure. I'm horrendously fat, right? My horrendous fat rolls. And I just whatever. But you'll always get people throw out comments like saying, oh, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too big, you're too small, you're too tall, you're too short, you're whatever. Like, take it all with a grain of salt, especially when people criticize, right? And the ironic thing, I've never been criticized by somebody who's doing better. It's usually always by people who are doing worse. And what I mean by that is because when I looked at the people like who leave the nastiest, most negative comments, the quote unquote haters and trolls and stuff, when you actually go on their profiles and see what content they're putting out, they're not putting out any content. And very often they don't they have no videos, no pictures, no nothing, but they'll go in and they'll post critical and negative stuff. And I find, like, I guess maybe that's their way of building themselves up. Like they get satisfaction by tearing others down versus actually going out and taking action themselves. But doing this, like anybody who goes on social media and puts themselves out there, like whether it's like I'm doing right now, like videos, or you're sharing content, you're putting yourself out there, you got to develop thick skin, right? And kind of filter through it all for sure. What else we got there? Read Farkle McBride by John Lithgow. But first, look up the cover and show us. All right. Not now. I'll check it out later. Who else we got there? Happy Easter weekend from Thomas. And same to you, my friend. Happy Easter to you. Your arms were huge last year. Please show us a bicep flex now. Well, I'm wearing long sleeves, but I don't really have much. Can't see him. Can't see him through the long sleeve sweater. We got Mark joining in. Hey, Mark, how's it going? Glad to have you joining into our video chat. Hopefully you had a good workout today. For those of you who haven't seen, myself and Mark did a podcast a few weeks back, or a couple weeks back, something like that. And he is currently on an extreme weight loss journey. And I've been following along and helping out with some of his workouts over on his channel. And you can actually check him out at, as you can see right there, his profile name, King Live 2025. And we've actually done some live workouts over on his channel. But if you haven't already done so, I would highly recommend going back through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast and check out the one. What was the title of it? I think I called it My 886 Pound Life or something like that. I called it Mark's Extreme Weight Loss Journey because Mark was at one point 886 pounds. You're hearing that right. That is not that's not a mistake or a verbal blunder. That's 886 pounds. And in the podcast, he actually reveals how he found out that he was 886 pounds. But over the last few years of focusing on making better choices and getting his shit together, he has lost, I believe, we're chatting this morning through Messenger, and I think he said 373 pounds down, which is incredible. Like, I can't even wrap my head around those numbers. Like, he has lost 373 pounds. Or was it 78? Anyway, 370 plus pounds. Like, that's just mind-boggling. Like, most people can't even wrap their head around those numbers. But again, I have huge respect. And I just want to touch on this. I want to just be totally transparent here and then say, after doing that podcast with Mark and chatting with him and helping him out with these workouts, I have a lot more appreciation and respect for people who struggle with their weight and the challenges that they're going through, right? Because sometimes I don't want to be mean or rude to anybody, but in the back of my mind, I always think, like, how could anybody ever let themselves become that big? How could it ever happen? But after doing our podcast, and again, Mark was very open and transparent, I could really empathize with what he was saying and kind of relate to the challenges and struggles. And when it comes to fitness, nutrition, and living a healthy lifestyle, it's not just the basics of, oh, you got to eat right and exercise, eat less and move more and all that bullshit that people throw out. I mean, sure, that is the tactics. That's like, someone who's struggling with their finances and I say, spend less and earn more. Like, what good is that? That helps nobody. Or telling a smoker or someone who's addicted to recreational drugs, just quit, just say no, don't do that stuff, just shun them. That does nothing. That does not make positive change. That if anything, that just piss people off if you throw that stuff out. Like, really trying to help somebody to create lasting change, it goes much deeper than just eat right and exercise and go get them tiger. Like, it takes a lot more to it. And I gotta say, I got a lot more appreciation and respect for what Mark's going through and for what a lot of other people are going through. I mean, it's been an eye-opening education for me, to help Mark along his journey. And I'm looking forward to continuing on and helping him in his weight loss journey, and just to see how far he can go, right? And how much he can improve, right? Because it's extreme weight loss for sure. But again, glad to have you join in, Mark. Who else we have joining in? We've got Tim joining in. Lee's live. Well, color me carb depleted and curious, ready to lift me spirits and my squat numbers. Good afternoon. Well, thanks for joining in. Glad to have you join into our video chat. And Tim's a regular over on our Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, and he has achieved some great fat loss success and posted up his numbers. I mean, currently on a fat loss cutting program right now and making awesome progress. So again, kudos to you and glad to have you joining in. We've got Barry joining in. Welcome, Barry. Glad to have you joining in as well. Question here. Is the anabolic window a myth? I'm going to unpack it. It's not a myth per se, but it's not as critical or as big of a deal as as the supplement companies used to make it out to be. Because I remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, the whole idea of the anabolic window, and like people blew it out of proportion, saying like, after the last set and the last rep of your workout, you got to get in 75 grams of simple carbs and 25 grams of protein, and you got to slam that in you within 30 seconds of your last rep of your last set, or your workout is a waste of time and you just pissed your gains out the window. And you would go into the locker room at the gym and you would see guys like they, do their last set, and they would run into the locker room and grab out their shaker cups and their powders and mixing all this shit up in the locker room and chugging it down as fast as they could, right? Because God forbid you miss the anabolic window, right? And the reality is, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a point to post-workout nutrition and all that, but it's not as critical as a lot of people make it out to be. And we need to look at nutrition in a much broader, bigger sense. As long as you're replenishing and you're providing your body with adequate protein and carbohydrates and nutrients and everything else over the long term, you're good, right? It doesn't have to be within seconds of your workout being over, right? And you only have this much time before the window closes and you ruined it all. The only time where having rapidly absorbing post-workout nutrition can really help is in the case of like athletes and people who are doing multiple sessions per day. And I actually made a blog post about this, and it was in reference to amino acids, because amino acids could be part of a post-workout shake, right? Or post-workout nutrition, because they're rapidly absorbing protein, basically. Like a protein, when it's broken down to its most basic form, is amino acids, and amino acids are rapidly absorbed. So if you want to get rapidly absorbing protein, amino acids are the way to go. And a lot of people would have that as part of their post-workout anabolic shake. Now, Where that can help is in the case of athletes who are doing multiple sessions per day. So I'll give you an example. Like, let's just say we got a football player who does a weight training workout in the morning, and then he's got a practice in the afternoon, or any athlete for that matter who does, multiple sessions per day. This is where post-workout nutrition can really play a role, because they want to be able to replenish their glycogen, replenish their amino acids, and to recover as fast as they can for that next session. So post-workout nutrition is more critical in those situations. But you think of the average person who probably goes to the gym 3 times a week. Post-workout nutrition is not that big of a deal, because let's just say, okay, you go 3 times a week. You've got 48 hours between workouts. That's plenty of time to get adequate food and nourishment into your system so that you can rest, recover before your next training session. And so it's not that big of a deal. Another analogy that I like to use for this, think of racing, like auto racing. Like if you're fans of like NASCAR or Formula One or something like that, like when those cars are on the track and they're racing and then they pull into pit lane, like they have high speed fuel pumps to pump the fuel into the car as fast as possible, so that car can get back out on the track as fast as possible, because every second they waste in pit lane, fueling up, changing tires, whatever, that's valuable time that they're losing on the racetrack, and that could cost them the race. So in those situations, in those high performance situations, every marginal gain makes a difference. So if they had to have a regular fuel pump and slow pumping the fuel into the car, it would take too long, and that could cost them the race. But they have high speed fuel pumps to just pump that stuff in there as fast as possible so they can get back out on the racetrack. In that situation, rapid fuel absorption, if you will, makes a difference. But think of you driving your car and filling up your daily driver. Does it matter how fast you fill up the car? Probably not. Like if you go to the gas station and it takes you 10 minutes to fill up the car, in the greater scheme of things, who cares? Like you're still going to be able to get to work. You're still going to be able to get your groceries and run your errands or whatever. It's not a big deal. If it took you 30 seconds or if it took you 10 minutes, who cares? Same when it comes to regular people in the gym working out. Like if you get your post-workout nutrition in you within 30 seconds of your last set and your last rep, or you get it in you within the course of a couple hours, who cares? You got it in you. That's all that really matters. So again, I just wanted to unpack it, because a lot of people would just give a blanket answer and say, oh, the anabolic window is a crock of shit and move on. But I want to explain it so that you can get a better understanding of it. So hopefully that helps to make sense. And if you do have any further questions, feel free to elaborate on it. Who else we got joining in? Oh, we got Rick joining in. Welcome, Rick. Glad to have you joining into our chat. Rick's a member of our Muscle After 40 program. And happy Easter to you, my friend. All right, who else we have here? We have Art joining in. Welcome, Art. Glad to have you joining in. Art's a regular to our chats as well. Brian saying, Lee, those people that criticize are haters. I was told I shouldn't lock out on the leg press, and the same guy I said I wasn't doing full reps on a different exercise. What's your thoughts on locking out? As long as you're in control of the weight and you're not hyperextending your knees, I don't see any problem with locking out. I mean, I generally lock out on the leg press. Now, there's a difference. Like when you do a leg press, if you're in control of the weight and you lock it out at a controlled tempo, the risk of injury is very minuscule, very, very low. But if you're like really kind of jerking the weight and throwing it up fast and locking out your legs hard, there is a potential that you could, overextend the knee joint and injure the knee if you lock it out hard. And this is something I sometimes see this with my personal coaching students that I'm working with one-on-one in the gym. When they're learning the exercise, sometimes they're going too fast and too jerky. And if they're going fast and jerky and then locking it out, then they could risk hurting themselves. But if you maintain a nice steady cadence where you're muscling the weight up, not using momentum, you can basically take it through a full range of motion, like full stretch, full lockout, full, just take it for that full range of motion with really no problem. Sometimes I'll even like lock out the leg press and take a couple breaths. So like, especially if I'm doing higher repetitions, like let's just say I'm doing 15 or 20 reps or more, I might do like 5 repetitions, lock it out, and then take a few deep breaths. Then do another 5 repetitions, lock it out, take a few deep breaths, and kind of do like a rest pause. So doing that in the locked out position. I do that with squats as well, right? Like lock it out and take a few deep breaths. Because when you're doing heavy exercise, especially like squats or leg presses or something like that, it's really hard to breathe in between repetitions, especially when you're handling heavy weight. And it's actually holding your air while you're in that bottom position is more stabilizing for the whole torso and core. So like, for example, like when you do a squat, if you take a deep breath and hold it and then squat down, you will stabilize and feel stronger coming up out of the hole. And then when you're at the top, then you can take a deep breath, right? So a lot of powerlifters will use that strategy, and I can use it. I'll sometimes use it as well. And so I will literally lock out to breathe in between repetitions. But again, with the leg press like that, as long as you're in control of the weight and you're not doing it haphazardly or jerking it, I don't think there's any problem with it. It's when people are using a lot of momentum and the risk of, you're slamming the weight up, slamming the sled up and then locking out the knees hard, it could potentially cause some issues there. But it's pretty rare. I mean, now if you go Google searching or YouTube searching, you'll probably see some, the extremes, right? The one in a million who hyperextended their knees on the leg press. But from a practical point of view, like I've never seen it in the gym, and I've been in the gym for over 30 years. I've never seen it in person, right? So it's pretty rare. Let's see what we got here. Cully is saying, Coach, what if you train without water like Vince Gironda said? All right. I have a lot of respect for the old school fitness gurus who kind of paved the way for, the modern era of fitness. But just because they were old school gurus, some of the things they did were just flat out stupid. And training without water, like Vince Gironda recommended, was just flat out stupid. Now, I think if he was alive today and we could actually sit down and talk to him, would be my theory behind why he probably thought it was a good idea, is because when you dehydrate yourself, especially if you're already pretty lean and you sweat out a couple pounds of water, you're going to look extra lean. Like bodybuilders, for example, like when they're getting ready for competitions or photo shoots or whatever, they do a lot of water manipulation to kind of like just get the water out from under the skin so they look extra lean. They don't want to have that puffiness under the skin. They want to just be able to as lean and as tight and dry as possible so they can highlight the muscle definition. And if you dehydrate yourself and get a pump, like a lot of bodybuilders, that's what they do before competitions, right? They dehydrate and then they pump up. You temporarily look better. And that's probably what he was going for, like that temporary look of trying to highlight your muscle definition. But from a performance point of view, it's stupid, because once you dehydrate yourself, and it doesn't take much, like I'm not sure the exact numbers off the top of my head, but like if once you get a certain percentage of dehydration, like your athletic performance and strength just drops off the cliff. It's crazy. And it doesn't take a lot. So you want to stay hydrated. And for me, when I'm training, I always got a water bottle with me. When I'm on my bike rides, I always got a water bottle with me. Heck, when I'm doing these video chats, I got a water bottle with me, right? I have the water with me all the time. So I'm just constantly sipping, right? Sipping throughout the day. And more so when I'm exercising, because I want to stay hydrated. I don't want my body to get dehydrated and then my strength and energy to deteriorate, right? Because it will. And another thing you got to factor in as well, muscle is 75% water. So when you're dehydrating yourself and you're losing water, not only is it coming from under the skin, but you're also potentially losing muscle, or at least flattening out your muscle. And that's why when you're dehydrated, you don't feel strong, you don't feel energetic, and there's more risk of actually injuring yourself. Like if you're training hard in a dehydrated state, you're more likely to actually tear or injure yourself, tear a muscle or injure it. Whereas if the muscle is hydrated and there's lots of fluid in there, it can function the way it's supposed to, so that your risk of injury actually goes down when you're adequately hydrated. So again, I mean, I got respect for Vince Gironda. He had a lot of good content and stuff, and certainly helped pave the way for bodybuilding. But that one thing there, he was full of shit on it. And I bet if he was alive today and could kind of like review modern research and science and studies, he would probably change his opinion on that as well. But based on the information that was available when he was alive, you know, we're talking like before the days of the internet, when information came at a snail's pace, and there wasn't, you know, fitness gurus and certification programs and nutritionists and dietitians and stuff like we have today, right? So a lot of it was true old school bro science, and that was certainly right up there in the bro science category. Who else we got there? Lee's got a question. Do you think 100 grams of whey protein a day split into 3 servings is too much? I always try to get most of my protein from food sources like lean meat, fish, eggs. Not necessarily. It depends on your protein intake needs. I mean, 100 grams of protein is high, but I've gone through phases where I've consumed that much protein over the course of the day, you know, especially when I was pushing it in bodybuilding. Like when I mentioned, you know, back in the early to mid 2000s, you know, like in the between 2005, 2010 era, there was, and especially in the off season and stuff like that, I was probably slamming back 100 grams of protein powder a day, easy, you know, and it can work, you know, because especially if you're trying to consume a calorie surplus and you want to make sure that you're getting adequate protein, it can be hard to get enough solid food protein, and protein supplements certainly help that. It's easier to drink extra protein than it is to eat it. Not only that, it's a lot cheaper as well, right? I mean, with the price of everything across the board, from just rising food costs and tariffs and God knows what, and just inflation in general, the price of everything has gone through the roof. So, hey, if protein powder helps you to cut down on your food bill and your protein costs a little bit, you know, there's nothing wrong with that either. And plus, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's a lot quick and convenient, and it can be enjoyable. You know, I like making stuff with protein powder. Like I'll mix up blender smoothies with protein powder, or I'll put protein powder in with my oatmeal, or I'll mix protein powder in with pancakes, make high protein pancakes. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of like take other foods and make them high protein foods. Like oatmeal is not a high protein food, but if you put whey protein in it, now you got high protein oatmeal. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can use whey protein to just jazz up a diet. The only disadvantage with it would be, especially in the fat loss phase, because when you're trying to keep your calories low, you'll get a lot more eating satiation and fill yourself up with solid food protein. Like if you drink a protein shake, you're not really going to feel very full or satiated afterwards. But if you eat a chicken breast, or you eat a steak, or a piece of fish, or whatever, especially today is Good Friday, you got to eat your fish on Good Friday. So if you're having your fish, that's going to be more satiating than a shake, right? Because you're eating it, you're chewing it, you're getting solid food in your stomach, and it's more filling and more satiating. And it's also more thermogenic because the body has to break it down and digest it. So there's more of a calorie expenditure in the digestion process as well. So a lot of times you'll see bodybuilders, especially like when they're in a fat loss phase, they'll avoid protein powder and try and get all solid food, or at least mostly solid food, for that reason alone, because it's more thermogenic, is more satiating, and helps to tip the scale in favor of a calorie deficit versus having protein supplements. But then when someone's trying to get more and a higher calories, or be in a calorie surplus, the opposite is true. Sometimes it's easier to get more calories and more protein with the shakes than it is with solid food. So, you know, it really depends on you and your situation. But if you're doing at least a 50-50 ratio, like you're getting 100 grams of protein from powder and 100 grams of protein from solid food, that's fine. If it gets to the point where the protein powder exceeds the solid food protein, yeah, that's a little much. My threshold would be 50-50. 50% of your protein from supplements, 50% from food. trying to get it all from supplements or most of it, say like 75% or something. Yeah, that's probably not ideal, because then you're also looking at the other things like the micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals and the things that come along, and the enzymes, the like the essential fatty acids and enzymes and stuff that you get through solid food. You're not getting that through the supplements, or at least not to the same degree. So again, it depends on the situation, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Saw June. Damn, I used to watch you when I was 16 and now I'm 25. I know it was thought you were gone. Glad to see you, Uncle Lee. All right. Uncle Lee, there we go. Well, hey, kudos, man. Glad to have you joining back in again. And I haven't gone anywhere, but I can relate to where you're coming from with that, because the way it is, like, we're talking, okay, 14 years ago now, or not 14 years ago, 9 years ago. Get my maths all screwed up here. 9 years ago. A lot has changed over the last 9 years, especially, in the internet and the algorithms and stuff. And there's so much more on the fitness side of things. Like when I started YouTube, you could probably count on your fingers and toes how many fitness channels were on YouTube. Like there was me, there was Scooby, who else was the head Hodge twins, and who else? There was a few other guys, of course. I can't remember them all, but like literally, there's Elliot Hulse was back then. Elliot's still around, but still, you know what I'm talking about. There was only a handful of fitness people on YouTube, so like my channel used to get a lot more traction because there was a lot less competition. Now every man and their dog has a YouTube channel, promoting fitness content. It's just crazy, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I've seen that, like a lot of people, just it gets lost in the shuffle. So unless you're actually looking for somebody or looking for somebody's content, it's easy to not see it, right? And I've even found that with people that I follow too, right? Like it's just for some reason the algorithm doesn't always show it to you. But anyway, glad you're here now, and we do these every Friday, so feel free to pop back on, and we do a podcast every week as well. Like there's a lot of new content coming. Who else we got joining in? Neil's joining in. Neil's a regular to our chats as well. He says, my shoulder got impinged. I got some pain in the middle of raising my arm, but no pain at the top and the bottom. Is dead hang a good exercise to relieve the pain, or should I stop training entirely of my arm for weeks? Thanks. It's really hard to know for sure what you've got done there. I mean, it might be just a nerve impingement, and sometimes that can ease up. It might be something pulled or strained. And if it's pulled or strained, you'll probably know, because, like, for example, like if you did a heavy bench press, and as you were doing the bench press, you feel that sharp shooting pain throughout your shoulder or somewhere. It's like, okay, I probably pulled or strained something. But if you're getting like an ache or a pain and you really don't know what caused it, it's just kind of like it's just really stiff in a certain position or whatever, it may be a nerve impingement. And I've often gotten nerve impingements, especially for me. I get them sometimes in my back, like certain way I twist or move, or sometimes even in my neck too. Again, certain way you sleep on it the wrong way, or you twist or move the wrong way, and you kind of get this dull, achy sensation. Or sometimes you move a certain way and you get, it just doesn't feel right. And a lot of times it will ease up on its own. No, you can still do some like active recovery or some easy, gentle exercises and stretching to relax it and ease it out. But so again, it really depends on what you've got done. I mean, if it's just some sort of nerve impingement, sometimes some active mobility work, arm circles, rotator cuff rotations, things like that can usually help that along. But one thing that I would recommend whenever you're doing any exercises, first off, go ridiculously light. Like I'm talking like baby weights, warm up weights, super duper light. And if anything causes pain or discomfort, don't do it. Try to find another variation instead, and try and work around it to the best of your ability. So, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to do direct shoulder work for a while, other than some active mobility things. Again, like rotator cuff rotations, or arm circles, just kind of going through the motions with different exercises. but you'll probably still be able to train your legs. You'll probably still be able to do like abdominal work and cardio and other things that don't involve the shoulders. So try and keep yourself active as best you can and focus on like active recovery for that shoulder. And if it's still like, if this lingers on, go get it checked out. Like go see a physiotherapist or someone who, preferably someone who's used to working with athletes. That would help because they can really, hands-on figure out exactly what you've got done there and give you some good suggestions there. I mean, I've done that in the past, seeing a physiotherapist and stuff. And, I know people have mixed reviews of them, but if you get a good one, like it's certainly worth the investment for sure. Let's see. Thank you for unpacking. All right, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it when I unpack questions versus just give you the blunt yes, no answer and leave it at that. Right? That was always a pet peeve of mine. Like someone ask a question and yes, no, or they give you like this little one-line answer, and very often you ask a question and then you're left with more questions after you asked it than you did before. Right? So I like to unpack and give context with my answers. Right? Some people enjoy it. Some people think I talk too much, but hey, if you're still here watching, obviously you must enjoy it. Good info, Lee. I appreciate it. Thank you much. Rick saying, thanks, Lee. Happy Easter to you and your family. Much appreciated, Rick. And same to you. And I'm going to be in Ontario at the end of the month, actually. I'm heading up for a fitness seminar. So I don't know if you're still in the Ontario area. I'm going to be in Old Toronto. That's where I'm heading to for a fitness seminar. So I'm going to be up there at the end of the month. Reach out to me, right? We can, if you're around then, we could probably meet up. Who knows? Get in a workout. Let's see. Mike's got a question here. How do you address nagging tennis elbow? That can be a nuisance. I've had nagging tennis elbow on and off for years. Like it flares up and then it eases up, and it flares up and it eases up. But I've had it on and off for years. And how do I deal with it? The first thing that I do is I focus on avoiding anything that causes pain or discomfort. So, for example, like if a certain exercise, whatever it is, if that exercise or position or grip or whatever causes pain, discomfort, don't do it. And try and change your grip, because this is something that's so weird about tennis elbow or elbow tendonitis is, like, if you have your hands in one position, it may cause that excruciating pain. You switch your hand to a different position, you might feel no pain whatsoever. And like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I get pain on the inside of my elbow. Now that's technically known as a golfer's elbow. Like generally tennis elbows on the outside, golfer's elbows on the inside. I've never played tennis or golf, but I've had both. It's just a common injury amongst tennis players and golfers, hence the name. But it's elbow tendonitis, right? That's the technical term, if you will. But what I'm getting at is, like, I find when I get that flare up, like a regular palms up bicep curl causes excruciating pain. Like I can't do it. I just feel that sharp shooting pain. I feel weak. But when I do a hammer curl, thumbs up grip. So instead of, like, if I do palms up, can't do it. Do thumbs up, I can do a hammer curl. No problem. No pain whatsoever. So that's one thing I'll do. I'll switch out exercises, right? So that's how I'll deal with the nagging things. Sometimes too, like maybe doing like a tricep push down, for example. Like if I use the flat bar, it causes pain, but I use a rope attachment, doesn't cause any pain. Certain other exercises too, like maybe if I do a barbell bench press, it hurts. But if I do a chest press with a parallel grip, maybe it doesn't hurt. So just try changing up your hand positions, your grip width or whatever. Like very often you may be able to actually work around that tendonitis and still train your targeted muscles without causing aggravation. So that's something that you can experiment with. And it's going to take a little bit of trial and error, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, how can I change the hand position or the grip width? And I find like having flat or parallel, that usually works. Like maybe you won't be able to use the straight bar, but you could use the easy curl bar, or something like that. Or maybe you can't use a straight bar, but you could use a rope attachment. Like, just try and change up the positions or the handles. Even try some different machine variations that you have, and just see what you can do comfortably. That's one. Another one that I've actually done as well for that has helped with elbow tendonitis, using lifting straps, right? Because sometimes when you grip really hard, that causes the tendonitis to flare up. But if you use a lifting strap and just kind of like a, not as hard of a grip, but you just grip enough to keep the straps together, you can still go through the motions and do your exercises without causing as much flare up. You could also get some elbow sleeves, like compression sleeves. You go on Amazon and search for like elbow compression sleeves. You'll see them. They're very popular in like, for especially like powerlifting and bodybuilding. You see a lot of sometimes lifters wearing these thick compression sleeves. That can provide some mild support, and it also helps to keep the joints, tendons, and ligaments warm. And when they're warm, they're more mobile and less likely to get injured. That's another thing I should mention too. Anytime you have any nagging injuries, whether it's a shoulder injury, elbow injury, knee injury, keep it covered up, right? So like for now, like I'm wearing this hoodie. If I had shoulder or elbow pain, this would be great to wear because it helps to hold in your body heat and keeps the body part covered and keep it warm. Don't go in with a tank top on and have the skin exposed to the air, and then of course when you sweat and the air gets on it, it feels colder. Keep it warm, keep it covered, keep it warm. Like, you're better to be a little overheated and sweating, especially when you got injuries, because when your body is warm, there's more blood flow, more circulation, and it's kind of therapeutic from an injury point of view. So that's another thing that I would do too, to work around the nagging tennis elbow. And you can do some different rehab exercises as well, like different types of wrist curl variations, like with very light weights, and just kind of going through the motions. In fact, one of my personal coaching students that I am working with in the gym now, he has some tennis elbow flare up in his right arm, I believe it is, right? He's right-handed, right arm. And one of the things that we're doing to kind of rehab it is just very light reverse wrist curls. I think he was using like an 8-pound dumbbell, so very, very light, but just taking it through the full range of motion, kind of getting that blood flow and circulation there, and working it. And working it where you can feel the muscles and feel the tendons stretch and contract, but not so much that you're actually feeling pain and discomfort. So it's a very fine line of stimulating it and helping to aid with the rehab process, but not going so much that you're causing strain. And whenever you're doing any rehab work for any injuries, short, frequent, and light is what you want to do. Like, don't think of, hey, I'm going to go in there and do an hour of rehab. No, I'm going to go in there and do like a few minutes of rehab work, and I'm going to do that every day, versus like I'm going to go in there and just annihilate an hour of rehab once a week. You're better to space it out in these little mini sessions multiple times. And that's going to help to just increase blood flow, circulation, and aid with the recovery process. But if you follow those tips, I mean, you should be able to work around it and still maintain your fitness while you're going through it. Right? I mean, I've gone through it multiple times, and I've kind of second nature now of how I can work around it. I mean, there might be certain exercises that you can't do, like, especially the big heavy power moves or whatever, but you can work around it with some machine variations or cable variations and things like that, and still train the muscle. And that's the main thing you want to focus on, is like working the muscle, not getting hung up on the exercise. Let's see what else we got. We have Polly joining in. Said, I recently started working out. I'm 55. I have to lose about 180 pounds, and I'm very confused on what I should be doing with my nutrition and calories per day. All right, that's a big question, and it's a lot to unpack, right? What I would recommend, I actually have a resource that I want to share with you. It's called Ripped After 40, and it's a free PDF download that kind of explains the bigger picture perspective of how you go about losing fat and sustaining it as a healthy lifestyle. And you can download that. In fact, I should have the download link in the description below this video. So pop open the description below, scroll down to the bottom, and there should be links there where you can download the Ripped After 40 PDF. And you can also get it on my website. Just head on over to leehayward.com, and there's a link to that on leehayward.com where you can download Ripped After 40. There's also another one called Muscle After 40. Very similar, but the Ripped After 40 goes into more detail about the specific strategies on how to lose body fat and giving you the bigger picture perspective of what you need to focus on. That's where I would recommend you start. Start with that. And then if you want some help with implementing that, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my contact information is down below, and we can have an email conversation, to chat, to discuss your situation, and your what challenges you're going through as far as nutrition, and see if we can help to map out an action plan that works for you. All right. But that's there's a lot to unpack there, right? That could be a whole hour-long conversation in and of itself, but I would recommend download that Ripped After 40 PDF download. That would be the best place to start, and then we'll take it from there. Which are the top 3 supplements? That depends. It depends on what we're trying to supplement for. I mean, in the bodybuilding world, protein powder, creatine. I mean, if we're limiting it to 3, if I had to just 3 blanket supplements, a protein powder, because most people are not getting enough protein, creatine, because that has numerous health and athletic performance benefits, and I would probably go with a greens powder, green supplement. Just like you supplement protein powder to help you meet your protein intake needs, you supplement with greens powder to help meet your vegetable intake needs. And most people, well, like the average person, they're not eating enough protein and they're not eating enough vegetables. So protein and greens could certainly help supplement that, and creatine. So if I had to limit to just 3, that's the 3 that I would go with. Now, beyond that, there's a lot of other things that we can get into, and not necessarily from a bodybuilding point of view, but from a health and wellness point of view, like zinc and magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids and the vitamin B, like a good B complex supplements. A lot of these things can really go a long way as well. Vitamin D3, another popular one and an important one. Like those are some common vitamin deficiencies that a lot of people have. But if we're just going to keep it simple, protein, creatine, and greens, I'd start with those. Khalid saying, even Vince ground drink eggs. What about that, coach? Even Vince ground drink eggs. What about that? Vince ground drink eggs. I think you mean Vince Gironda drank eggs, and you mean raw eggs. I hate raw eggs. Like true raw eggs, I think are disgusting. I know you see the Rocky montage and stuff, and he's got a dozen eggs in the glass and he drinks them down. It's like drinking snot. Like there's nothing pleasurable about slugging down raw egg. Like it's just, ugh. It's just slimy, snotty, ugh. But cooked eggs, I love cooked eggs. So like, why am I going to wait? I mean, especially with the price of eggs these days, why am I going to waste a damn egg and drink it and not enjoy it? I'm going to cook it up and enjoy my eggs. And from a practical point of view, I mean, not only is it going to taste better and you'll actually enjoy it, but raw eggs, there's certain what is it? Avidin, I believe it's called. I'll have to look it up exactly now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a certain substance in raw eggs that's very hard for the body to digest. But when you cook it, it's easier for the body to actually utilize it, digest it, and absorb it. Not to mention the whole salmonella thing. Like that's another can of worms there. But you'll get more utilization and better absorbability from a cooked egg than you will from a raw egg. Plus, it's more enjoyable. So, like, I mean, if Vince Gironda liked to drink raw eggs, well, kudos to him. I mean, he didn't drink water, but he drank raw eggs. But I hate it. I've tried it. It's just like, blah, man, this is disgusting, right? I'm not going to do that. Let's see what else we got. We got Jesse joining in. Hey, Lee, I never get to watch these live. Happy Friday. Well, you're here now. Kudos to you, my friend. Glad to have you joining in live. Lee, my partner has a sharp pain on the outside of her knee. It hurts to touch, but no pain when walking or standing, just painful to touch. She heard it doing body weight squats. That's interesting. So, nope. I mean, I don't know if it pains when bending the knee in full flexion. I mean, it doesn't hurt to walk or stand, but I don't know about the squatting thing. But it's there's when it comes to the joints, they're so finicky. Like, I mean, it might be just a minor strain or pull or something, and hopefully that's all it is, some minor thing that will heal up on its own. But then it could also potentially be something that's pulled or torn and that requires a bit more, rehab and recovery time. It's hard to know, by just a comment alone. But the fact that she can walk and stand with no pain, that's good. Painful to touch, right? Don't touch her. don't touch her knees anyway. Right? I don't know. What I would recommend in that situation, this is something that I've done to rehab knee injuries for myself. From a practical point of view, it worked really well. Very light, high repetition leg extensions. So I remember this was a few years back now. I injured my knee. It was a lot of years back now. I did it when I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we were doing takedowns from standing. And the way I hit the mat, I just came straight down on my knee, and I just really, jarred the cartilage in my knee, and it hurt for weeks, and it was causing pain and discomfort. So I did some damage in there. But how I rehabbed it was very light leg extension. So every time I went to the gym, part of my warm-up routine, I go over to the leg extension machine and I just take the lightest weight on the stack, like 10 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever the lightest weight you can put on the weight stack. And I would just do repetitions, just pump out as many reps as I could. So I'd maybe pump out like 20, 30 repetitions till it was starting to feel the burn and the discomfort. And then I'd do a rest pause, just rest for 10 or 20 seconds, then do another set, as many reps as I could, rest pause. And I did that for 100 total repetitions. And that was part of my knee rehab program. So every time I went to the gym, so like if I went 3 or 4 times a week, I did this 3 or 4 times a week. I would do 100 total reps on the leg extension with just the lightest weight on the stack. And that was basically the extent of my leg workouts. Now I'd still, do some cardio and things like that, but I wasn't doing like squats or leg presses or anything like that. I was just doing these light leg extensions. And every, week by week by week, I mean, it just, the blood flow, the circulation and the movement, it really helped to, just rehab that knee. And I found that it worked really well. So that's something, you might want to get her to do, especially, if she's going to the gym with you, and hopefully she is, well, and you have access to a leg extension machine, very light, high rep leg extensions. It works really good for like a knee rehab exercise. And the nice thing about it is you can take the knee through the full range of motion without much tension. Like that's the nice thing about the machine exercises is you can go, as light as you need to. So you're focusing on the movement and not the strain. And movement is medicine when you're trying to heal and rehab things. Let's see what we got there. Please treat us to a gun show. I'm wearing a sweater. I don't. Right. Someday when I have my T-shirt on, we'll do the gun show again. Mr. Mahoney or Maloney, Mr. Maloney Baloney, PhD. Well, we've got a doctor in the house, folks. First YouTube channel I watched 15 years later, still training and learned a lot from your channel. You know what? I appreciate that. That's cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And love the picture of your dog there in the profile picture. Beautiful. Oh, that's cool. I love getting comments like that. I get them every now and then, like people say, hey, I've been following your stuff for years, right? And it means a lot, right? So again, thank you so much for the support and appreciate the comment. Dante's, what to do to get bigger arms? Been working out for years, just is full. Shoulders as well. Biceps have just hardened, but not bigger. Forearms small too. I do curls, hammers, reverse pull-ups. this is a simple little strategy, I guess. In order to get bigger arms, you need to get bigger all over. So if you're trying to keep your body weight the same and build bigger arms, I mean, you could certainly improve the definition and the muscularity and everything else, but you're probably not going to gain much size unless you get bigger. And the general rule of thumb, for every 10 to 15 pounds of muscular body weight you put on, you'll gain an inch on your upper arms. Now, it's not a hard set rule, but it's a general guideline. So if you want to put an inch on your upper arms, you got to put on at least 10 pounds of body weight or more to fill out those upper arms. So you got to look at that as well. Like, are you getting bigger all over? If you're not, that's probably why your arms are staying the same. Now, you mentioned there that they've hardened up. So you've seen improvements in terms of the muscularity and the definition. But if you want them to physically get bigger, you've got to get bigger. You got to be in a calorie surplus, and you got to focus on actually putting on some muscular body weight. And I've noticed that myself. Like when I was in my bodybuilding days and purposely trying to get bigger, the bigger I got in terms of the more muscular body weight I put on, my arms got bigger in proportion. Like you could see the change. So that's the key right there. Now, if you're looking for a good training program to help support that, I actually wrote one several years ago, a very popular program. It's called Blast Your Biceps, and it's still available. It's still up there. You type in blastyourbiceps.com, and you can head on over there and pick up a copy of the Blast Your Biceps program. And this is an arm specialization program. It's not just a bicep program. It's biceps and triceps for arm specialization. And it's laid out into a 3-phase system. So phase 1, is kind of laying the foundation. Phase 2, we really get into the arm specialization program. And then in phase 3, we do more of a general power and strength program to really help to solidify the gains that you make through the specialization phase. So again, if you want to check that out, it's blastyourbiceps.com. And that would be a good program to follow. But even in that program, one of the key things we mentioned there is, if you want to get bigger arms, you got to get bigger all over, right? Like trying to keep your weight down and make your arms bigger, it's not really going to happen. What else we got there? Joel's joining in saying, hey, thanks, Lee. This guy is partly responsible for me enjoying being strong and muscular for 17 years. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Much appreciated. And kudos on the consistency. 17 years. Well done. Polly saying, will do. Thank you. You're welcome, my friend. Thanks from the Kurt Hans. I think you're welcome. Someone saying, Vince said he blended boiled eggs with milk. Well, that just sounds disgusting. Christ. What's wrong with just cooking food normally, blending boiled eggs with milk? Well, I can't complain too much. I've done some disgusting things with my nutrition over the years to just get food in me. But nowadays, I focus on taste and palatability versus just get it in you. Right? I want to enjoy my food, not just consume it for the sake of consuming it. And to me, a boiled egg blended with milk, bull. Right? I like boiled eggs, but I ain't gonna blend them with milk. Jesse's saying, my dad was into kickboxing, and back in the day, 1980s, before protein powders. Well, there were protein powders back in the 80s, but anyway, he would blend whole milk, raw eggs, and a couple teaspoons of honey for a protein shake. You can't taste the eggs, right? Well, kudos. I mean, if it worked, but I still wouldn't do it. And today we can get protein powder. But there were protein powders back in the 80s, not to the degree that they are today. I mean, but they were certainly available. What else? You got Lee saying, thank you for the advice about my partner's knee. She especially liked the part where you said, don't touch her. Don't touch. Keep your hands off. Right? I mean, that's what you said, right? Hey, it only hurts when you touch your knee. Well, don't touch your knee, right? Anyway, with that being said, guys, we're going to get ready and clue it up. So we actually went a wee bit over the hour, but that's fine. I always enjoy doing these video chats, and sometimes when we get rounded up and going, I get the gift of gab, and an hour just flies by. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. It was great having a chat. We had some good questions and conversation. And if you want some more, like I recommended, like there was somebody wanted some information about fat loss nutrition and things like that, down in the description below, I do have some resources down there. One, there's links to the podcast. Like check out the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast. That's something that I'm really passionate about because that's where I can go into a lot of detail about specific topics geared around training, nutrition, lifestyle that will really help to humanize this whole process. You know, like cut out the hype, the bullshit, and the fluff, and really humanize it for practical, real world application. So, again, check out the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast, subscribe to it if you haven't already done so. It's on YouTube. Like, I mean, I post the videos on YouTube, and I do encourage you to watch them because very often I'll have visuals to go along with the podcasts. But they're also up on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, and most of the major podcast platforms. So if you prefer listening to the audio version, that's available there as well. Also, want to let you know that we have some resources down there. The Muscle After 40 Blueprint, the Ripped After 40 program, that's down there as well. And if you want to keep that conversation going throughout the week, join us over on Facebook. We have a free Facebook group called the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Group. Just search for Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding. Request to join the group, and I will accept you into the group there. And this is where we can keep that conversation going. Like a lot of people who are actually participating on our chat here today will, we can chat throughout the week, share workout tips, meal tips, recipes, all that kind of stuff. Great way to keep that conversation going. So check us out over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend. Happy Easter. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Take care. Over and out.